Does it mean that we get home and then we lay on our beds? What was the lay in that? And I understood why it had also to change. I think it's layman, laity, are words that are still in common use in English, but not so much, I think. So I think there came up a generation that struggled a bit with lay. What is lay? I think. And then it changed to now personal ministries. But still, I think we need to find Elder Veriri. I don't know, maybe there's a better adjective. Personal ministries. What does that mean, personal? It means what? It's the best. I'm hoping Elder Muila, I don't know, personal. But I think it's the best. If you look at current English, anything personal means that you do it as an individual. At a personal level, yes. I also thought I was going to come up with a better adjective. I went through dictionaries, I couldn't find one. Personal, what personal would mean. But I think the whole idea is that when we leave church, at the end of the day, as me, as you, have your own program. How am I going to evangelize? The quote that I got here from Christian Service, that tries to push that point home, says that here, let every member of the church, that's page 62 of Christian Service, become an active worker. In other words, every member a missionary in active soul-winning service for God. I thought then, at the end of it all, when I was trying to understand the department, that there can be no better starting point than trying to get us as members to understand that when we leave church as individuals, let's have a... Elder Lala spoke about the church calendar tomorrow, that we're going to discuss the church calendar in the church board. Let me have mine, my own calendar, that for 2022, this is what I am going to do outside the church. I've got a colleague at work. When I went to her classroom, she has a box. Remember how we struggled to talk about a box, Mama Kore? Alone. So she went to some bookshop and bought a box full of Bibles. That's her project, individual project, and then she gives away the Bibles. Personal. It's not planned by anybody, not financed by anybody, but a personal approach to evangelism. That's a personal project. And when I saw her do that, I really was challenged. A big box, not just 1 or 2 Bibles for distribution, but a full box. I can't remember the count there. But I was personally challenged that, so personally in 2022, what exactly am I going to do? And therefore, our study this afternoon will sit exactly around that area, where as an individual, I go and work in the vineyard. And we had a discussion, I think, during the week in the council meeting there, and people were speaking about a crusade. My own definition of the best crusade, if each one of us here, by the end of the year, brings just one person, that would be the best crusade ever. Just one person. If I bring one, you bring one, we are about, I do not know. Us that are here, I'm not talking about people that are not here. That would be a very big baptism. It would be a very big baptism. It would be the mother of all crusades. Because after that is done, Elder Gunene, you will not need what you call them, spiritual what? Parents. I will mentor the person that I brought to church. So, done. Yeah, where I found them, I will find them when they drift back. But personal ministries is what we are going to be talking about this afternoon. Just to go back to some... Is what?
Just giving the members. They wanted to bring members, but now you're saying they must then parent them. Now they're like,
It's very simple to parent that person. It's very easy. Because for starters, sometimes I'll bring my friend. If I bring you here as a friend, I naturally will pass through your place. Let's go. Yeah, and when I see you during the week, okay, hey, this Sabbath, yeah, we're going. I don't come as a parent. You are my friend, you've been my friend, let's go. Why were you not there this Sabbath? Was there a problem? I'm not asking as a parent, I'm asking as a friend. It makes it much simpler than when I have to parent you when I did not know you for starters. So when I come to you now, I come and say, you see, yeah, it would simplify things. But let me just pick a few examples in the Bible, although it's not the really main thing that I want to talk about. Very good presentation last week about Saul. Just summarize for us the personal part in it, Brother Paul. I thought about it. I know I'm just catching you unprepared here, but it was your presentation. When I thought about something that is personal, I thought about your presentation last Sabbath about Jonathan, rather. Jonathan, yes. Just in a few lines. What was personal in that?
All right, thanks. I think for me, for me, the powerful thing is making sure that you've got a relationship with God first.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it would be very difficult and probably impossible to start talking to somebody about a God that you don't know or you don't have. Yeah, I think for me that's the starting point. And I'm not saying that you sort of need to know everything about the Bible, everything about God before you can start, talking to other people about God. So I think for me that's the first thing and the main thing for me. So when you look at the story, you sort of understood that Jonathan had faith in God, that God will be with him. So and as I'm saying, when you've got a relationship with God, you will know how God speaks to you. I mean, for me, it's not, he will not talk to all of us the same way. But a personal relationship that you have with God will make you to understand what God is saying to you. Yeah, so it would be easy for you to be able to go out there. So for an example, if you are saying, God, there's this project that I want to do, or there's this brethren or a colleague or a family member that I want to sort of start praying with, or I want to introduce that particular person, to the faith. So when you speak to God and ask him in terms of how you do that, I think you should be able to sort of get direction from God in terms of how you should do that. And he will give you strength, he will give you power to be able to achieve that. So as I sit down, I think in the quarterly this week, so there was a story right at the end of the lesson. I think that spoke about a gentleman from the US, if I remember correctly. He was a volunteer, I think, in Russia. And then there was somebody that he worked with there at the school. So he was a volunteer teaching English in Russia. And then what happened was that he invited that particular colleague to church. And then the colleague went to church the one Sabbath, but his observation realized that the colleague did not enjoy the service there. Yes. And then he decided, I will never invite this person to church again. But what he did was to pray for this person. And it took 10 years. So he was praying for this person for 10 years. And after 10 years, when now he had returned to US, and the same colleague was in the US, sent him a message to say that I want to start studying the Bible with you. Yeah. So, and that's how it started, and the interest grew from there. So I just think it would be very important that you speak to God first, ask God how you should actually carry out His mission. Thank you.
Let me use this one. Thank you very much for that. And remember, we're just speaking just one thing this afternoon, that may God help me, may God help you. That as an individual, I've got my own program of evangelism. Just that. Just that. All right, we will later on talk about other examples. There are plenty in the Bible. In John chapter 4, when Jesus goes to the well and meets the Samaritan woman, Jesus is just personal at that level. The disciples have gone to town to buy food, but he engages that woman personally. And the main part of our study will look at styles of evangelism, how we can engage people, and how we are gifted differently to engage people. And then you talk about Philip. I think he has spoken about the need to have a relationship with God in Acts chapter 8, where Philip is directed by the Spirit to speak to the Ethiopian man, directed by the Spirit. And then you can talk about Dorcas later on in chapter 9. We will get to that later on. But maybe let's look at the agency of this before looking at how it works. I do not know what our plans are about going to heaven. Do we want to surprise our family members? I have a friend who certainly should be about 3 weeks ago, he phones me and he says, he begins like, I am thinking of leaving South Africa. I said, oh, anyway, it's not a very bad idea. There are people who have gone to, I think I said China, what's the other country, Australia and things like that. Anyway, let's pray about it before you start planning. He says, no, actually I have booked a flight. You are taking us by surprise. He had already done everything. So when he told me, everything had been done and said. So he took everybody by surprise. I'm actually flying out next week and he's gone. So when I thought about how sometimes, myself included, that I have people within my circle of friends, at work, my neighbors, that maybe we're thinking of springing the same surprise, Elder Muil. They wake up in the morning, they knock at your door, he's gone. We believe in the rapture, I think. Gone. Because if we do not tell them, then we are planning a surprise exit from earth. But let's go to the book of 2 Kings chapter 7. There's a familiar story there. 2 Kings chapter 7, just verses, maybe verse 1 first and verse 2, but my main verse there is 8 and 9. Anybody who is in the book of 2 Kings chapter 7, yes. Verse 1, yes.
Then Elisha said, hear the word of the Lord. Thus says the Lord, tomorrow about this time at say.
My apologies, it's not the verse that I want. Let's take 8 and 9. All right, I wanted a verse that would give us the background. I think it's in chapter 6. There's a famine. People are dying. The city is besieged. I think that's a word that now we can relate to if you look at how cities easily get besieged in the Ukraine. So there's no more food, people are starving and dying. Then let's go to 8 and 9. That one is, yes. Yes, no, it's still the very same chapter.
8.
Yes.
It says, and when the lepers came to the outskirts of the camp, they went into one tent and ate and drank and carried from it silver and gold and clothing and went and hid them. Then they came back and entered another tent, carried some from there also, and went and hid.
Yes.
We are not doing right.
Thank you very much. We do not well, if you read the older Bibles. What has happened here? The city is dying of hunger. And these lepers decide that let's just go out. If we die, it's okay. In any case, we're going to die. Then they discover that there's no one outside, but there's plenty of food. They eat, they whatever, they hide some of the food. But suddenly a realization occurs to them that it's not right for us to eat while the city is dying. And if during the week I keep quiet and you keep quiet, it's not right. Our friends, our neighbors, our workmates, and all people like that are dying. Then what did they do, Mamugunen? Just take it further. Now, that's the agency of the message, that we are living in a world now, I think, more than we realize. The world is in trouble. Maybe let's take it to the end before I say that, and then we get to the main part of our study, which won't be long, by the way.
Verse 9, then they said to one another, we are not doing right. This day is a day of good news, and we remain silent. If we wait until morning light, some punishment will come upon us. Now therefore, come, let us go and tell the king's household.
Move on, next one.
So they went and called to the gatekeepers of the city and told them, saying, we went to the Syrian camp, and surprisingly no one was there, not a human sound, only horses and donkeys tied, and the tents intact.
Thank you very much, Mamgone. So in other words, they could not keep it to themselves. They could have done that. Continue eating while the city dies. But they decided that it wasn't a very good thing. I was about to say that we are living at a time when I think more than at any other time, the church needs to play a leading role. I'm almost drifting to the presentation that I initially wanted to make. The church makes or plays a leading part in the affairs that are affecting the world. I did not have my class this morning, but if I had had my class in the morning, I wanted to ask them this question. If you go out, how would you advertise the church? What's the best way to advertise the church? Why should I join the church? Brother Tonderai, why should I come to the church if I'm not a Christian? Now, what advertising point can I use to bring anybody out there to come to church?
I think I would think of how Christ changes.
I don't even know about Christ. Remember, I'm not a Christian. I'm out there as your neighbor or workmate. What advertising point would you give to anybody out there so that they come to church? What's the attraction?
Just
Love them. I think that one is better. Anybody who thinks they've got an answer. That would have been my first question to my class in the morning, because this very same lesson, strangely, is the lesson that I would have taught my class. That's their cornerstone lesson 13. Like light. Be light wherever you go. That was my lesson number 13 in the cornerstone class. And surprisingly, it's the same lesson that I planned to present here. Elder Mwila,